Welcome back, dear listeners, to another story that holds a timeless lesson within its simple yet profound narrative. Today, I bring you a tale that unfolds in a small village, where a humble potter's gentle hands shape not only clay, but also perspectives. It's a story about seeing beyond imperfections, about mending what is broken, and about discovering beauty in the flaws that make us unique. As you listen, I invite you to reflect on your own life, the cracks you carry, the ways you have mended yourself, and the strength you've found in your own journey of healing. In a quiet village, nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, there lived a skilled potter named Kavi. He was known throughout the land for his beautiful creations: delicate vases, sturdy bowls, and ornate pots that adorned the homes of villagers far and wide. Each piece he made was a testament to his patience, skill, and deep understanding of his craft. People would travel from distant towns just to watch him at work, marveling at the way he shaped the clay as if it were an extension of his own soul. Kavi's workshop was a simple place, filled with the scent of fresh earth and the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the windows. Shelves lined the walls, displaying his finished pieces, each one more stunning than the last. Yet, among the array of perfect polished pottery, there was one piece that seemed out of place. It was a pot with a long, jagged crack running down its side, and a chunk missing from its rim. The crack had been mended with gold lacquer, its shimmering lines tracing the fracture like a map of pain and healing. Villagers who visited the workshop would often point at the cracked pot and ask, "Why do you keep this flawed piece here, Kavi? With all your skill, why not make a new one? Why not create something perfect?" Kavi would simply smile, his eyes filled with a wisdom that seemed to come from a place beyond words. "Every piece of pottery tells a story," he would say softly. "And this one tells a story that is not about perfection, but about resilience, transformation, and beauty, and brokenness." The story of the cracked pot began long before it came to rest on Kavi's shelf. It was a story that involved both heartache and hope, loss and renewal. Years ago, when Kavi was still a young potter, he had been commissioned to create a set of pots for the annual village festival. The order was large, and the deadline was tight, but Kavi was determined to complete it with excellence. He worked day and night, shaping the clay, firing it in the kiln, and painting each piece with intricate designs that told tales of the village's heritage. One particular pot stood out among the rest. It was larger and more ornate, with delicate patterns that seemed to dance across its surface. Kavi took special care in crafting it, pouring his heart and soul into every curve and line. When the pot was finally finished, he felt a deep sense of pride. It was, he believed, one of his finest works. But on the day of the festival, as he was transporting the pots to the village square, disaster struck. A sudden, unexpected jolt caused the cart to lurch, and the beautiful pot toppled over. It hit the ground with a sickening crack. Kavi's heart sank as he rushed to pick it up, his hands trembling. The pot lay before him, broken and shattered. The crack ran deep, splitting the pot nearly in two. The vibrant patterns were marred, and a chunk of the rim had broken off completely. Despair washed over Kavi. All those hours of painstaking work, all that effort, now lay in pieces. The villagers, seeing his distress, offered their condolences. "You can't fix it, Kavi," they said gently. "It's too broken. You should just let it go." But Kavi couldn't bring himself to discard the pot. There was something about it, even in its broken state, that spoke to him. He carried the pieces back to his workshop, his mind churning. How could he mend something so damaged? How could he restore what seemed irreparably broken? For days, Kavi stared at the shattered pot, considering his options. He could try to glue the pieces together, but that would leave unsightly seams. He could cover the cracks with paint, but that would hide the pot's original beauty. None of the traditional methods felt right. Then, one evening, as he sat in the dim light of his workshop, an idea struck him. Instead of hiding the cracks, what if he highlighted them? What if, instead of viewing the flaws as something to be ashamed of, he embraced them? What if he filled the cracks with something beautiful, something that would not only mend the pot, but transform it? Kavi set to work, carefully mixing gold powder with lacquer. He gently filled each crack with the shimmering substance, his hands moving with a steadiness born of hope. As he worked, the jagged lines of the fracture slowly turned into gleaming threads of gold. The pot, once broken and lifeless, began to take on a new form, one that was both familiar and utterly changed. When he was finished, Kavi stepped back and looked at the pot. It was no longer perfect, but it was beautiful in a way that went beyond perfection. The gold-filled cracks shone brightly, tracing a path of pain and healing, of loss and recovery. The pot's brokenness had not been hidden or erased. It had been transformed into something that told a story of resilience and strength. Kavi placed the pot on his shelf, where it stood as a reminder to himself, and to all who saw it, that brokenness is not the end, that flaws do not diminish value, that what is broken can be made whole again in a way that is even more meaningful than before. As time passed, word of the cracked pot spread. People from neighboring villages came to see it, curious about the story behind the golden cracks. Some came out of curiosity, others out of skepticism, and still others because they too carried their own cracks. Cracks that could not be seen, but that were felt deeply within. One day, a young woman entered Kavi's workshop. She moved with a quiet grace, but there was a heaviness in her eyes, as if she carried a burden too great to bear alone. She stood before the cracked pot, staring at it for a long time before speaking. "Is it true?" she asked softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Is it true that this pot was once broken?" Kavi nodded, sensing the unspoken question that lay beneath her words. "Yes, it was broken," he replied gently, "but it was also mended. And in the mending, it became something new, something that carries both its history and its strength." The woman looked down at her hands, which were clenched tightly together. "I feel broken," she murmured. "Like this pot. I feel like the cracks in me are too deep, too jagged. I don't think I can ever be whole again." Kavi's heart ached at her words. He stepped closer, his voice filled with quiet conviction. "It's not about hiding the cracks," he said. "It's about embracing them. It's about seeing the beauty in the scars. What if, instead of trying to erase your pain, you honored it? What if, instead of covering your wounds, you filled them with gold?" The woman looked up, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time. "But how?" Asked, "How do I mend what's broken inside?" Kavi smiled gently. Healing is not a single act. It's a process, a journey. It begins with acknowledging the cracks, with accepting that they are a part of you. It continues with finding the courage to fill those cracks, not with bitterness or regret, but with something precious, something that reflects the strength it took to survive. It's a transformation that happens slowly, but in time, you will see that the parts of you that once seemed broken are the very parts that make you stronger, more beautiful, and more complete. The woman nodded slowly, tears glistening in her eyes. She thanked Kavi and left the workshop, her steps a little lighter, her heart a little less burdened. As the years went by, more and more people came to see the cracked pot. Some came to admire its beauty, others to learn from its story. Kavi would always share the tale of the broken pot and how it had been transformed, not through the erasure of its flaws, but through the embrace of them. And each time, he would watch as the light of understanding dawned in their eyes, as they saw in the pot a reflection of their own lives, their own journeys, their own cracks. For Kavi, the cracked pot was more than just a piece of pottery. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even what is broken can be made whole again. It was a testament to the fact that healing is not about returning to what was, but about creating something new, something that carries both the pain of the past and the beauty of transformation. The cracked pot remained on Kavi's shelf for many years, long after the potter himself had grown old. And even when Kavi's hands could no longer shape clay, the pot continued to speak to all who saw it. It spoke of resilience, of embracing flaws, and of finding strength in brokenness. Because in the end, we are all like that pot. Each of us with our own cracks and scars, each of us mending ourselves in our own way. And when we choose to fill those cracks with gold, with courage, with love, with acceptance, we become something more than we were before. We become a living testament to the power of healing and the beauty of embracing who we truly are, flaws and all. Thank you for joining me in the story of the potter and the cracked pot. If this tale resonated with you, if it reminded you of your own cracks and the ways you have mended them, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's celebrate the beauty of our flaws and the strength that comes from embracing them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us all of the resilience that lies within each of us.